So next up, we're going to learn about hashing. Now in this, we're going to talk about each and everything of hashing. So we're going to talk about hash table, hash set, what is the similarity between hash table and hash map and hash set. We're going to talk about each and everything in details. So set interface and everything we're going to talk about in detail, so that you can solve any kind of problem using these techniques. If I use these techniques wherever, so you can able to see these lectures and understand each and everything. So hashing is a technique of mapping keys and values into hash table by using a hashing function. So it's used for faster access of element, which depends upon the efficiency of the hash function. So hashing is the process of converting an object into a numerical value called as hash code. So hash codes are extensively used in various data structures and algorithms to improve efficiency and enable quick access and retrieval of data. That's why we use hashing. So Java provides built-in support for hashing through the following mechanism. So hash code method is there, hashing function is there, hash map is there, hash set is there, hash table is there. So we're going to see each and everything one by one, so you will understand better. So we're going to go to the VS Code and we'll implement each and everything. So first up, that is the hash table. So a data structure that stores element in key value pair. So as we said, why we use hash table, only the basic funda is we want to retrieve data and access data very efficiently. So this data structure help us to do that. So that's why we use hash table, hash set and hash map also. So a data structure to store elements in key value pair. In hash table, key is a unique integer that is used for indexing the value. Value is the data that is associated with the key. Now what all this means is, until unless I go to the VS Code, you will not understand. If you understand also, that's very good. Now let's jump to the VS Code and see how we are solving each and everything and how I'm explaining stuffs, so you'll understand better. So thank you. Let's jump to the VS Code. So let's talk about hash code method a bit, then we're going to implement the hashing function. So we're going to talk about the hash code. All right. So in this, let's say, in every class in Java inherits the hash code method from the object class. So whenever it inherits hash code method, like it is from the object class. So hash code method calculate and return. So what it works is it calculates, it's like this method, this is a method. All right, so this method calculates and returns an integer hash code value for an object based on internal state. So it returns what? It returns an integer hash code, returns integer hash code. All right, by default it uses the memory address of the object as hash code. However, it is common practice to override hash code method in custom classes to provide a more meaningful hash code implementation. So there is an implementation of hash code also that is bit different. You can see over the internet how that function works, but we actually, if we that sometimes we just directly use it. Next up, that is hashing function. Now this is, we're going to see how this is implemented hands-on. All right, so in this hashing function, like Java provides a set of hashing functions that java.util package, including objects.hash, arrays.hashcode. These are the packages it includes. So this function can generate hash code for multiple objects or arrays by combining the hash code of their individual element. So this is the work of hashing function. Okay, let's go to the VS Code and see how it's like objects dot hash these are the two common hashing function, objects dot hash, and one is arrays dot hash. So these are the two common hashing functions in Java. Let's see and implement both this hashing function and how it's happening. Let's see the output. Okay, jump to the VS Code and see here. All right, we will create a program. Let's say, hashing function dot java. All right, so we created hashing function dot java file here. All right, so what I'll do is I have to create the classes, I have to include the objects, I have to include the arrays, because we're going to use those hashing function, objects dot hash and arrays dot hash code. We're going to use that, right? So for that, what I have to write is I'm going to write import java dot util dot objects. So this is how you're going to include the objects and arrays. You already know that import java dot util dot arrays. This is going to include the array. Now what I have to do is I'll write one class, and in that class we'll write each and everything. So let's give it access modifier public and class hash function example. We are saying functions example, and inside this we're going to write each and everything. So we're going to write our main method here. So what would be the main method? Here we're going to write. Now what we're going to do is we're going to write the main method, and we're going to use this function. One is objects.hash, another is arrays.hash code. All right, those are the two most common function we used in hash function. All right, so what I'm going to write is public static void main method, and in this string argument args. Inside this we're going to create, this is going to be done with example. We're going to write example using objects dot hash. All right, what I'm going to do over here, so here we're going to write, let's say int, I write hash1 as one variable, hash1 as one variable, and here I store in objects.hash. This is the method I use, object.hash. all right, and I want to give arguments over here. So what are the arguments? Let's say I give 42. Let's say I give any I mean string value, let's say hello, and I give as a true value over here. Okay, that's the boolean. All right, so these are the values I given in the hash1 function. Now I want to check the hash code for those, right? So what I'll write is system dot out dot println, and in this I want to write hash using objects dot hash function, and that's going to be what that's stored in hash1 variable, right? Hash1. Now I'll end it over here. So this is going to be done for the example of using hash object.hash. Now if I want to check hash code using array, right? So what is that? So I'm going to write example using arrays dot hash code. So I'm going to declare an array. Let's say int, I write int array, and let's say array name to be array only. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to initialize some values over here, 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4 comma 5. End the array, and I'm going to, let's say I'm going to store in hash 2. 2 is the variable I'm taking, and in this what I'm going to write is arrays dot hash code. So this will give, here will give the array input, right? So what you're going to pass? Array directly over here. Now if I print this, so what I'm going to write, system dot out dot println. I need to print this, so I'll write hash using arrays. Okay, so what would be the result? Result is stored in hash 2. Okay, now what actually happening is, like in this above example, objects.hash, and we use two things. So object.hash, this function accepts variable number of arguments and calculate the hash code by combining the hash code of its argument. The order of the arguments affect the resulting hash code, so it returns an integer representing the hash code. Now this arrays.hash code, this function calculates the hash code of an array by taking into account the elements of the array. So it considers the length of the array and individual value of the elements, and it returns an integer representing the hash code. So the example here, it shows how to use these functions to generate hash code. In the main method, we generate a hash code using object.hash with 3 arguments, that is integer, string, and a boolean value. We also have generated a hash code using array, and finally we printed that. Okay, one more thing to note here is the hash code generated by this function may vary between program execution due to factors such as internal implementation and system dependent behavior. So your hash code generated may be different. Now question is, why this hash is made? Like, what is the importance, like why we create hash code, like what is the need of hash code? We are doing this objects.hash, arrays.hash to find the like hash code of this whole elements together, and to get arrays hash code is going to be there. So what is the use of it? So the basic application of hash code is lots of places, like security, database, file system, distributed computing, everywhere. Look, okay, let's talk about the security. Like hash codes are used to verify the integrity of the data and ensures that it has not been tampered with. For example, many password storage systems stores a hashed version of user password instead of password itself. So when a user logs in, their enter password is hashed and compared to the stored hash. If they match, the user is granted access. Why it is stored in hash? Because if someone hack the system, so they it's written in they cannot decode that, so that's why it is written that. Okay, it's used in the database also. So hash codes are often used as key in database to quickly search for and retrieval record. For example, if you have database of customer information, you might hash code based on the customer's names or ID to quickly locate their record. And one most important thing is hash codes are extensively used in blockchain technology. In fact, the core of blockchain technology is built on cryptographic hash functions. So in a blockchain, each block contains a unique hash code that is based on the contents of the block. So including a reference of the previous block hash code, this creates an unbreakable link between blocks, so forming a chain of blocks, hence the name blockchain. So do you understand why the blockchain term is coined? Okay, I'll talk about this again. So in blockchain, each block contains a unique hash code, and it is based on the contents of the block, so including a reference to the previous block's hash code. This creates an unbreakable link between blocks, so forming a chain of blocks. Hence, that's why this is named as blockchain. All right, so the hash code serves two important purposes in blockchain. One is data integrity, and second is consensus mechanism. Now you don't have to go into it, in consensus mechanism there is going to proof of work, proof of stake, different things are there, so you don't have to go into it. What does that mean? So data integrity means is in the hash code ensures that any changes to the data within a block will result in different hash code. Thus, if someone attempts to modify a block in a chain, the hash code will no longer match, and it will obvious that block has been tampered with. So you can understand why we generate hash code for this, different here integer we have taken, so it will create hash code one thing. So if you generate password this way, so that will be stored in hash 1, and if user write it, so that will be matched or not, that will be checked. Okay, few things to talk about in hash code. I'll talk about in detail because we're learning hashing in detail. So let's talk about about the hash code more. So what in computer science, a hash code is a fixed size numeric value that represent a data item such as string or object. So you can understand is determining string or integer or boolean, right? So this is going to give a particular fixed size numeric value. All right, now hash codes are often used for indexing and retrieval of data items in hash tables, which are data structures that provide fast access to large amount of data. So you might have thought that how Google retrieves those data. They got huge database. How they retrieve? Did they do with linked list or arrays or what? They might use hash table or something, right? So hash table is there, hash map is there, both are similar kind of things only. I'm going to talk about it more. All right, the hash code of an object is typically calculated using hash function. So you can see we are using hash function. What we are creating hash code, so we using two hash function. One is object.hash, another is arrays.hash code. So these are the most commonly hash functions we use to create hash code. All right, so here we are using this two, which takes an object data and input and produces a unique or a nearly unique integer as output. So it is not necessary that it will produce unique output every time. So this integer can then use to as index in a hash table and allow quick lookup of the associated data items. Now where this hash code I use in the hash table. You can understand. So next thing is, if I talk, hash codes are widely used in different programming. You say it Java, you say it C#, where they're used to implement data structures like hash map and hash set. So their hash codes are used. In these cases, the hash code is used to determine the bucket of an object should be stored within the data structure. So when searching for an object, the hash code is used to quickly narrow down the search space, resulting the faster retrieval of the time. So by now you have understood why hash code is more important and why we are converting to hash code from hashing function, right? Because data structure like arrays or linked lists may be more slow. However, one thing I need to tell here is, it is important to note that hash codes are not always guaranteed to be unique. So in fact, collision can also occur. It means two hash code of same can occur. So where two different objects produces the same hash code, to handle collision we use hash table uses techniques like chaining, so where multiple objects are stored in the same bucket, or open addressing. That is what we called as, alternative buckets are searched until an empty one is